3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
All right, welcome back to TTMTrades top 3 for the week. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So my top 3 for the week are, let me pull up my phone. I'll put them in my phone. Top 3 for the week is ticker AYTU, VII, TROV, and RKDA. All right, so let's get right into it. Let's look at ticker AYTU. All right, so looking at ticker AYTU, so as you look down here, like we talked about before, when I alerted this back at the 41-cent range, so you had this nasty downtrend between the two bottom Bollinger Bands, which is showing a strong downtrend. Then the price action seemed to flatten out, crossing that 1 standard deviation bottom Bollinger Band, which acts as a 10-period moving average. As the prices flatten out, volume began to pick up on each push, as you can see here, signaling that buying was coming into play. Then you had the breakout. Now it began to pull back, and as you can see, it pulled back here on high volume. This day was low volume. The pullback on this day was on a little bit high volume, and then on this day was on a little high volume. All right, and then as you can see, it found support right on that 20-period moving average. Okay, so anytime a stock is in a very, very bullish trend, okay, it will maintain between the top 2 Bollinger Bands, as you can see here. All right, it was in that trend above the 20-period moving average, moved into a strong uptrend, stayed between the top 2 Bollinger Bands, and then it went on that downtrend, and as above, so below in the downtrend. Okay, now this trend is still in a very bullish state, seeing that it found support right on this 20-period moving average, and it is still holding right above it. So right now, current support is right at 50, with a current 20-period moving average is at, and the current resistance right now is at 59. It closed at 56 on Friday. Now, if you look at all our indicators, as you can see, the RSI, as it was trending down, it found support right on that 10-period moving average, as is the on balance volume. As you can see, the volume, as it was trending down, you can see the sell volume. And then once it hit right here in this price range, as you can see, which is right where the 20-period moving average was at, there was some accumulation. As you can see, the line began to trend back up. All right, so all of our indicators, even our CCI, has found support on that 30-period moving average, and then our slow stow is beginning to turn back up. Okay, so what we want to see going into next week, you want to try to play right in this channel. Perfect entry would be right at the 20-period moving average at 50 cent. And worst case, not worst case, but best case scenario is get that entry right at 50 cent, and then try to play the spread from 50 to 59 or 50 to 68, right where that top Bollinger Band is at, which is currently acting as a resistance. So here's your 2 lines of resistance right here, 59 and 68. Now, if we zoom out on this one on a weekly basis and get the big picture view, now on a weekly basis, you can see how the volume has picked up each and every time. 1, 2, 3. So there's a lot of buying interest, and the shares are being accumulated in that price range. And then you had a low volume pullback last week. So one thing about this low volume pullback, just to make sure that this is a pullback, man, what in the world? So verifying that this is a pullback, number one, you can see that it was on low volume, and then also even as it pulled back, you can see this wick, there was some accumulation, which caused the candle to close right at 55.5 cents. Now, always keep in mind, on a weekly scale, the stock is still in that downtrend phase. It has to break above that 10-period moving average to show that it's trying to break out overall. So on a smaller scale, on a daily scale, where we're trying to make some quick scalps and get some price gain, it's showing a bullish trend. On a weekly scale, we still have to break above that 1 standard deviation bottom Bollinger Band, which is currently at 78 cents, which will correlate to this push up to 76 and then a slight pullback. So if you could play the 50 cent entry, like we said on the daily, right where that 20 period moving average is at. That'll be a good entry. And then I would definitely watch for this 76 as resistance. And if you can get that spread 50 to 20, 50 to 75 or 76, that's an easy 40 to 50% gain on that play. But just make sure that the price action holds above the 20 period moving average. So keep an eye on this one next week. I do believe that it will get a nice bounce and begin to trend back up as all indicators are beginning to reverse, showing that there's some buying pressure on this one to start trying to push it back up. Now, another thing to note is it created this low down here, made a higher high, and then if this is the bottom right here, then it makes a higher low, which in turn you should try to push to make a higher high, which would correlate to what we just saw on the weekly, right around 78 to 79 cents. So AYTU, that's one of my plays. All right, what was another one? Ticker VII. All right, so let's look at ticker VII. So we break this one down. This one's on the daily. All right, I got a lot of lines on this one. So as you can see, ticker VII was on this downtrend right here. Found support right here, right at that 37 cent where this white line is at. And then it had that nice bounce up and it ran up into 51 cent. Again, had that pullback, found support again right here on that 37 cent, as you can see in this area. And then it dipped down to about 35. And then it ranged from that 35 to 41 cent range right in here. And then you went back into this channel of 37 to 41 cent right here, where there was a lot of consolidation, as you can see here, where support was right at 37. Resistance was right at 41. Now what you are beginning to see, as you can see right here on this yellow line, is that the price action is beginning to trend upwards. Now the main line of resistance, which is our first profit target you want to watch for, is right at 48 cents. The RSI still has plenty of room to run. So if you were to try to play your entry, if you were going to follow this trend line, I would try to get an entry right at that 41 to 42. That's all depending on you, however you want to play it. I'm speaking how I would play this one. I would wait for a pullback and try to get that entry from anywhere from 40 to 42 cent, and then try to follow this trend line upwards into these price targets of right around the 48, 53, and 59 cent for an easy spread. As you can see here, the momentum is definitely shifting. As you can see, your PMO line is crossed, which measures momentum. I don't use the MACD. I use the MACD histogram with a 5 EMA on it. And you can see the momentum is beginning to pick up as it trends above this 5 EMA line. And then along with the RSI is also making higher highs and higher lows. Higher highs, higher low, and now as you can see, it's trying to make a higher high going into next week. And even your on balance volume found support right above that 30 and it bounced back above the 10. So there's definitely some accumulation in stock on the daily. We just want to see that it pushes through our first price target of 48 cent, which is currently acting as the resistance due to this channel back over here, and then try to head into our old profit targets of 53 to 59 cent. Now, looking at past history, this one does spike pretty wild, and then it never holds its gains. It always pulls back, and then again, as you can see here, a nice spike again, doesn't hold the gains, and then it pulls back. Another one spike. This looked like it may have been on news or something, as you can see the immediate sell-off. But keep that in mind. If you get a pretty wide spike like this one right here going into next week, seeing that it doesn't consistently hold its gains, then I would probably lock in my profits by the end of the day, or at the high as close as I can. Now let's go to the weekly on this one and look at this one big picture. So looking at this one big picture, as you can see here, on all these spikes right here, as it pulled back, it held above that bottom one standard deviation, never falling below the bottom two bands signaling a downtrend may be getting ready to start. So it held above that 1 standard deviation and then broke above that 20 period moving average, showing that it is now in that bullish zone. Right now you can see the 50 period moving average is directly above it at 44 cents. So again, we want to get that break above 44 cents. Remember, on the daily we pointed out our first profit target is 48 cents, which correlates with the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band. And then again, these spikes, as you can see here in volume, they're normally topping out right around, as you can see, and I'm clicking, making different ovals. So these spikes are normally topping out anywhere from 70 to 75 cents. So keep that in mind. If you can get that entry, like I said, around 40 to 42 cents, and ride that momentum up, as you can see, it's even beginning to pick up on the weekly, and the on balance volume is holding above its 10 period moving average, showing that there's some accumulation going on in the stock. So if you can get in from that 40 to 42 cent and then break above that 44, which is its current resistance, keep in mind, if the stock does spike up, then it normally holds its right, like we said, right into that 70 to 75 range, which is probably right where you want to sell. So I would probably put trailing stop loss on my stock as it begins to push up, if the momentum picks up as I head into that 70 cent range, and or just put a limit sell right at 70 and or 75, however you want to play it, and get that spread. But momentum is definitely picking up on ticker VII. All right, what else do I got on my list? All right, ticker TROV. All right, I know this one has, we've been playing this one, and we're gonna keep playing this one and getting the spread every single time. So ticker TROV. Now let's go to the weekly. I want to show you what I'm seeing big picture, so you understand why I keep coming back to this one. All right, so ticker TROV. Let's do a peer chart analysis on this one. Let's take away all the lines. Let's go to the weekly. Let's even zoom in. Let's do 1 year of price action. If you look at ticker TROV, it's trending upwards. All right, you see this low here? We're gonna draw a trend line to that low, to that low, and right there, if I'm lining it up just right. So as you can see, as it bottomed out here at 23, it had a nice little run up, pulled back into the trend line, ran up to 41, pulled back into the trend line. As you can see, it was selling, hit the trend line, large spike in volume, showing that there was buying, which also shows you why you have these long candle wicks. All right, so even though there was a lot of selling, there was a lot of accumulation at the same time. Buyers accumulating the weak hands this week, and then you had that run up again at 44 cents, and then pull back again, low volume as it ran into the trend line again. Another high spike in volume to show that even though there was some selling, there was some accumulation at the same time, which is why you have this long candle wick again. And then it ran up to 47.5, 48 cents, and now same exact pattern. It's always anywhere from 3 to 4 days, well, not days, because we're looking at a weekly time frame, 3 to 4 weeks of selling. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, a lot of accumulation, 1, 2, 3, again a lot of accumulation, 1, 2, 3, and you see the volume's low. So this week would probably be the week that you would want to try to make your entry. Now if we're following the trend line, right, as you can see, each time it pulls back, this is where the buying happens at. So bottom, run up, pull back, accumulation, run up, pull back, accumulation, run up. You're having a pullback. So the trend line looks like it's running right into that 31 to 32 cent range, right? If we're looking at this, following the bottom of the trend. Oh snap, excuse me. So looking at this, there's 30 cent, right? That little ticker right there is 31 cent, and then right there is 32 cent. So crazy, right? Because I'm gonna go to the daily and I'm gonna show you. Now at the same time, we're in an uptrend on the weekly because we're making higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Should have a pullback to that 30 to 32 cent this week from the looks of it, where there'll be another large spike in volume to show accumulation, which will get a higher low. And then the next week or two, we should begin making a higher high to push up even higher, 41, 44, 47. So it looks like it's jumping 34 cents on each higher high. So if you can get that entry from 30 to 32 cent, you could probably get a spread up to about 50 to 51 cent, because each higher high is about 34 cents. All right. Now, keep in mind, we just said we want to try to make an entry around 30 to 32 cent based off what the weekly is showing us, the pattern we're seeing. Now, if we go to the daily, now keep in mind your RSI is bouncing off the 30 and the 10 period moving average. We're right on top of the 10 period moving average right now, so we should get a bounce this week on the RSI. Now, if we go back to the daily chart on ticker TROV, now remember, I pointed out on the daily when we kept playing the pullbacks, right, that the strong support was 30 and the immediate support was 32. So remember, we played it, when did we play it? We played it here, right at 30 cent last time. Even though it dipped to 25 on us, we ran it up to 43. And then we knew that the support was 30, and it pulled back again into that line of support, which is where we alerted it again. It ran up to 48. So look at what it's doing. It's pulling back into this area again. And remember, we said based off what the weekly is showing us, we want to try to make that entry around 30 to 32 cent. Guess what those two strong lines of support at on the daily? 30 to 32 cent. So what I would look for, as you can see, I would look for, as you can see, the volume is trending down, which shows the selling is getting weak. So what I would look for is a spike in volume. Doesn't have to be nothing dramatic, but I would look for a higher high in volume, a spike in volume to show some buying interest, possibly down here in this 30 to 32 cent range. Once you see that spike in volume, then that tells you that buyers are coming in and buying in that area right there. Okay, now at the same time, your EMA is beginning to trend back up. Your CCI has hit oversold and bounced back above. The whole nine. Your RSI bounced right off that 40 and is trending sideways. We just need that break above 10. And the on balance volume is sitting right on top of this 30 period moving average. So again, we want to look for that 30 to 32 cent entry. We know 43 cent is a strong line of resistance. Each time we tried to push up into it, it failed. Pushed up into it, failed. Pushed up into it, failed. Pushed up and actually broke above it, but could not hold. Closed back below that 43 cent. Pushed above, closed below. Pushed above, closed below, and then the entire trend failed. So there's pressure still building on this 43 cent. All right, so 30 to 32. Try to make your entry, and then we still have these profit targets right here of 56 cents, 66, and 76 cents. But let's continue with the higher highs, and let's try to at least get that 30 to 32 cent entry, and then at least get another 3 to 4 cent higher high right at 50 to 51 cent for a possible 18 cent spread. Okay, and that's easily a 50 to 55% return on your money. All right, but let's take a TROV, and last but not least, ticker RKDA. All right, so ticker RKDA, as you can see here, had that monstrous run up at, from 428 to 66.56. I'm gonna definitely say that had to be on news for this thing to run that crazy, unless it was a low float stock and then it just started getting pushed with people piling on. Either way, so now you have the pullback. All right, as you can see, your RSI has bounced off that 50 line twice and is pushing up into the 10 period moving average as of right now. So as we can see, the price action pulled back, but why did it find support at this 21 to 22 cent range? It doesn't make sense. So we have to go big picture to understand why 21 to 22 cents was this line of support. So as you can see here, as this made this monstrous of a run on the weekly, you had this pullback on this week, pullback on this week. Last week you see this doji forming, so there's some indecision right here showing that Buyers and sellers are at a stalemate right now. Now, remember I told you on the double Bollinger Band strategy, if a stock is to stay in a bullish uptrend, it would maintain between the top two Bollinger Bands. So right now, that bottom Bollinger Band is right at 21 cents. So as you can see here, buyers are coming in, and right now the price action is currently at a stalemate. And even on these pullbacks, look at these pullbacks. These pullbacks was on low volume, and then last week there was some slight accumulation. So going into next week, what we want to see is, number one, our weekly RSI is still above its 10 and 30 period moving average, and now it's beginning to flatline sideways, showing us some accumulation. So what we want to see going into next week, number one, we want to see that we hold above $21 altogether. Let's go back to the daily. So going into next week, we want to see that we hold above that $21 based off the weekly upper Bollinger Band, okay? And right now on the daily, as you can see, the price action is beginning to trend up slowly but surely. And the Bollinger Bands are coming back in and they're constricting, showing that the price action is consolidating in this general area. So do I think the stock may take off running this week? No, but I do think this week might be a nice consolidation week for you to try to make a good entry around that $21 to $22 and hold for a possible run up again. Okay, so even as you look here, as this volume was a sell-off, it was all on below average volume. So the slightest bit of accumulation will push this thing back up. I'm assuming this is a low flow stock. I'm gonna have to go back and check, but even right now, as you can see, your EMA is beginning to, your MACD is beginning to trend above its 5 EMA. As you can see, it's starting to pull back up. Even right here before the run, the MACD EMA had that nice breakout above the MACD had that nice, the MACD histogram, excuse me, had a nice break above its 5 EMA, showing that the trend was beginning to take off. So again, the trend is beginning to reverse here, and then you can see per the Bollinger Bands, there's some nice consolidation going on right here. Meanwhile, the Bollinger Bands are beginning to come in and constrict. So what we want to see first is that $21 hold first and foremost, and we want to make sure the RSI is able to break above its 10 period moving average to show that the momentum is beginning to shift in the bear's favor. So this is just my keep an eye on one, okay? I'm not saying it's going to have an extravagant run this week, but what I am saying is it was on this pullback from $66, and now it's beginning to consolidate in that $21 to $25 range. So keep an eye on this one and see if you can get your entry, nice safe entry for a possible run in the following weeks. All right, and that is it, man. TTMTrades. I'm tired. I'm about to go to sleep. I'm off tomorrow, so I get to watch the market and sit in front of my laptop and chit chat with everybody. So hit me up on Stock Twits if you have questions, and or if you're in the private Discord chat, message me in here and we can talk about it and go over some things. But I'm definitely out tomorrow, so I get to sit in front of my laptop all day and watch the stock market and chit chat with everybody and just have a good time. So hit me up if you got any questions. TTMTrades, I'm out.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.